Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Right Book Company author talk with the fabulous Clare Norman. I'm really excited to have Clare with us today. Clare has over 20 years of coaching experience, highly sought after by other expert coaches, as well as successful coach training companies, and she's a master mentor coach. Um, Clare looks to continually sharpen individuals' coaching edge and upskill mentor coaches so that they can deliver high quality feedback to their coaches in development. She is the author of The Transformational Coach. And according to Roger Fielding, who is coach, mentor coach, and course tutor at the University of Cambridge, he said, this is a must read for anyone who wants to get out of their own way and move further towards becoming a great coach. So without further ado, I would love to welcome Clare Norman.
Hello, Sue, and hello, everybody who's out there watching.
Hey, hello, Clare. Lovely to see you, and welcome everyone. Really great to have you with us today, Clare, and for you to tell us a little bit about your business and about your fabulous book here. And perhaps for anyone who's out there considering writing a book, you might have some ideas, some stories about your experience. But let's dive right in and Clare, I gave you a little bit of an introduction, but tell us a bit more about what you do and what you've built up over the last 20 years in your own coaching practice and training practice.
Yeah, so for many of those 20 years, I was an internal coach, and then it was 8 years ago that I went independent, and so have been building a business which comprises of a couple of strands. One strand is coaching itself, so executive coaching across corporate, mainly professional services, but also NHS and charities as well. And then the other side of my business is working with coaches, so supporting them through mentor coaching, which is observing them as they coach and giving them feedback on their coaching, and supervising coaches, which is enabling them to think through how they want to show up as a coach. So those are the two parts of the business. And if I say so myself, it seems to have gone from strength to strength. Business building was not something I had done before. So I had done the coaching before, I'd done the mentor coaching and the supervision. But when I went independent, the business building piece was new to me. So it's been quite the learning journey.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's like we are experts in what we do, but when we get thrown into that pond of becoming our own business, entrepreneurship, whatever you want to call it, it's a whole different ballgame. There's so much to learn. But so it's been 8 years since you went out on your own. And how is that? I mean, as you say, it is going from strength to strength, but how's it been and how have you found it?
It's one of those, slowly. Oh, woof, suddenly I've got a business that I'm really proud of. I mean, I was proud of it all along, but it took perseverance, it took persistence, it took courage, lots of patience to get it to the form and shape that it's in now. Luckily, I have patience and perseverance in spades, so that helped, and it also helped in writing books, of course. Patience, perseverance, and keeping momentum going. That's definitely one of my strengths, I would say.
Yeah, it's you talked about, you mentioned the books. Yes, patience and perseverance is definitely probably a requirement for anyone who's considering writing a book. How did you find, what was it that made you feel in the first place that books would be helpful to help you grow that business?
Well, part of it was that I knew I had so much to share and I wanted to get it out there in a different form to more people than I can possibly get to as a an independent on my own. So that was part of it. Part of it also with both of the books has been knowing that nobody else had ever written anything along these lines before. Yeah. So I saw a gap in the market and thought, actually, that gap needs filling. I can fill that. That is a gap that I would like to fill, that I feel drawn to fill, that I know I've got the expertise to fill. So, yeah, I just naturally fell into. You don't fall into book writing. that's a daft thing to say, really, because there's a lot of effort required. But there was definitely something about, I know that these books are going to build my credibility. I know that it's good to have your name on the front cover of a book in terms of people recognizing that you are an authority in something. In this case, an authority in mentor coaching and in coaching. And I think I knew more with the second book how it was going to help the business than I did with the first. And that's partly because of the support that you had given and the questions that you were asking me to say, how do you want to shape this book in a way that supports your business to grow? And that feels incredibly important to, yes, you can write a book for its own sake, but there is also something about, you don't make millions off selling a book, but you make more, not millions still, but you get more business in because of that credibility that you're building and because your name is becoming known, and hopefully because you're writing something that people resonate with and want to have access to you as an individual and that intellectual property, if you like, and bringing the book's content to life and more. So yes, I think I had shaped that more with the Transformational Coach that I wrote with you about how it was going to support the business.
And tell us a bit about the Transformational Coach, because you talked about this sort of, you recognised a gap, but also you've mentioned that book has been particularly something that you were able to shape in a way that you felt really would kind of work for you out there in the world for your business. What is it that you've done with that book? For those, I mean, there may be some people who watch this who know it very well, and welcome. And thank you to everybody who's given such fabulous reviews on Amazon, because it's certainly one of our bestsellers. It's doing extremely well, and obviously people are loving it. So, which is wonderful. Tell us a bit about what you wanted to do in this particular book and how it's been for you.
So I wanted to help coaches to understand how they were getting in their own way, and how the mindsets that they had embraced unknowingly in some instances from previous lives, not literally previous lives, but from growing up, their childhood, their schooling, their working life, all of those parts of our development teach us stuff.
Yeah.
And there are lots of mindsets that we've taken on which actually get in the way of us being the best coaches we can be. And I saw this, especially because as I was observing coaches coaching in the mentor coaching sessions that I was running, more and more I could see that they were pushing back on encouragements to embrace certain new behaviors. And so when we started to unpick what that pushback was and why they didn't want to move in that direction as a coach, it was blatantly obvious that it was coming from some of these mindsets that they had integrated into themselves over the course of their lives. And so we needed to actually work at the mindset level before they could work at the skill set level. They wouldn't, well, they might be able to temporarily change those skills, but if they hadn't changed their mindsets, then in hard times they would end up sloping back to the old way of doing things. And so I wanted to help coaches to see what was getting in their way potentially, and through the observations that I was making, and then also interviews with I think about 26 coaches from around the world, identified 83 of those mindsets that were getting in the way of coaches being the best coaches they could be. And so they're all laid out there in the book for people to ponder, to think about, oh, is that me? Do I do that? And if I do that, what is the mindset that is stopping me or getting in my way? And what do I need to do to embrace a different mindset? So it was coming at coaching from a different point of view, because training is all about the skills. But if we haven't worked on our mindsets first, we won't be able to put those skills into practice. It was really important to take people back to almost to a beginner's mindset, and to enable them to unlearn that stuff that was not useful, not useful in a coaching arena.
I remember back to the early conversations we had, and that wonderful term that you came up with, that we discussed a lot, because there was at one stage we even thought it would be somewhere in the title, the whole idea of unlearning. And I think it's brilliant what you've done, because it's that whole kind of pause for thought of like, okay, it's really simple, isn't it? That's the lovely thing about this. It's not complicated. It's just a case of thinking about, am I stuck in a particular pattern, or is there something I react to in a particular way in a conversation? I mean, I have to say, I'm not a coach, but the book is gave me lots of thoughts about, what do I do in conversations with people, in assumptions I make when I first meet an author, or that kind of thing, and how can I think differently, so that and indeed what we've seen is the reaction to the book is that lots of people are absolutely embracing this lovely simplicity and this way of just saying, okay, let me have a look at that. What am I doing? What am I, perhaps a pattern that I'm stuck in, that perhaps if I shifted, I would have a different result, or a different progress with my coachee, or my thinker, or or whatever you want to call them. So
yeah. And sometimes I think when I read back over it, I'm like, yes, that's so obvious, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yet it's not that obvious until you read it, and you're like, oh yeah, why did I not think about that before? I think there's quite a few elements in there that just, you know, give people pause for thought.
Yeah.
Some they may well have thought about before and tussled with before, whereas others might be new, and give them a chance to really sharpen their edge
Yeah,
around.
absolutely. Yeah. Fantastic. And so it's out there in the world. It's doing really well. Are you pleased? And how has it been for you? You know, I mean, obviously you wanted to reach a wider audience. I know that was really important for you. And you know, there's a limit to how much you can do in your business. But it's lovely to see that the book is really kind of extending it out now to all sorts of people who perhaps wouldn't have an opportunity to work directly with you. So how are you finding that experience? Is it really sort of, is it growing for you? Are there, you know, are you getting finding awareness of people you haven't come across before and stuff?
Yeah. So I get contacted a lot on LinkedIn, people who've read it and want to connect with me, which is fabulous. And then hopefully at some point they might decide they want to come and have mentor coaching or supervision with me.
Yeah.
There are a number of people who are posting that they've read it and that it's made a real difference to their coaching. So one today that I posted a screenshot of a conversation between a mentor coach and a coach, and the coach was blown away by it, even though he has been coaching for some years, and is really experienced. So even for the most experienced coaches, there is a lot to take from the book to really fine tune. So I talk about marginal gains, like in Formula One, where they want to shave off 1 cell a millisecond in, you know, every tightening of the screw and doing whatever they do to the tires. And I think that's what we can do in coaching, is to think about what are the micro shifts that we can make that will actually make a very big difference to the way that the people we work with can actually think more deeply. But back to your question, I mean, I'm getting messages from people in India, the US. It just started to take off in the US. I was finding it hard to get an inroad into the US because I don't have the same. So in the UK, I know lots and lots of coaching circles where I can go and talk about the book and the content of the book, and then hopefully people will buy it as a result. And I don't have that same set of connections in the US, but actually the few connections I have who are raving about the book are enabling it to sell more widely over there as well, which is music to my ears.
Absolutely.
And so it's not only selling well here, it seems to be selling elsewhere as well. And the momentum is building. So it's like a snowball effect. It's been a slow burn, but now all of a sudden everybody seems to be talking about it and telling their coaches friends about it, which is all great marketing for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're a shining example, though, I have to say, of an author who has really got behind her own book, and that really is very powerful. You know, we were saying a little earlier that, you know, publishers do what they can. You know, they obviously will take it to market for you. You know, we have a route to market, and we lay that route out, and we work very hard to present the book to the book trade and all of that kind of thing. But we do not have anything like the kind of power that each individual author has to engage people around the book. You know, we can only be the sort of the conduit builds the road. I always say, you know, we can build the highway, we can build the motorway to get the book to market, but you've got to drive the bus, and it's if you do, and then it really works for you. And you have been exemplary, because you've really talked about the book with the passion that you have for your work, which is lovely. So it's authentic. It's not just about selling copies of books. It's about making sure that message gets out into the world, and it's been fantastic. So yeah, we're really delighted that it's working so well for you, but most of that is down to your hard work, and we congratulate you. Claire, tell us a little bit now about, because I know also you've done an audio book as well, which is brilliant, and that's beginning to kind of bubble away now and sell lots of copies, which is lovely. How was that? What made you want to do an audio book? Why did you decide an audio book would be a good addition?
Well, if I'm really honest, I just thought that would be a new experience. I'd like to do something new and different. You know, I'd been writing for years, but I had never done the audio side. Well, I say I'd never done. I've been podcasting for a couple of years, so I have done that. But yes, I wanted to bring the book to life, and in my voice, not in. I didn't want to have somebody narrate it for me. It needed to be my voice.
Yeah.
And I did. I don't know if I ever told you this, Sue, but I used to want to be a newsreader or a weather girl. So I wanted to be able to be on TV. Now, an audiobook does not give me the visible side of it, but there's a connection to what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Yeah.
And so I was connecting all of those dots and thought, okay, it's going to cost me more money to create an audiobook, and I probably won't ever make the money back on the audiobook in sales. But I saw it as just something new and different for me to learn from. And it was great. I loved it, despite the fact that I had a cold, and every time I listen to it, I'm like, oh, that's not my clear pitched voice. But hey ho. One of my friends was listening to it the other day, and she said, oh, it's so nice to have your voice in my ears.
Ah, there you go. I think that's lovely, isn't it? And audio is really, you know, there are a lot of people out there who will really appreciate that you've done it, because for them, it makes the book that much more accessible. You know, we're enjoying doing audio so much because we know it's reaching people who, for whatever reason, simply will not ever read the book, you know, maybe for accessibility reasons or maybe simply just not finding the time. So, you know, it's great that you've done it, and it will open more doors for sure, even if there is that question mark over a return on the investment that you've made. There'll be returns, as you said about the books themselves, there'll be returns in other ways.
Exactly. Yes, it'll come back hopefully in people wanting to buy my services, and that's
absolutely
the point of writing.
Absolutely, exactly. So, quick question. I think people might be interested again, those people who are watching this who are perhaps interested in a book for themselves. You have published two ways now. You've published in the original traditional way of publishing, which you did with your first book, and then you've gone the hybrid route with the second. I just wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about, you know, what the difference between those two things has been for you, and just sort of your insight into that would be quite interesting, I think.
So I remember when you and I first started to talk, you described it as though I was the customer, and the customer gets what the customer wants. And hopefully I wasn't too bolshy and asking too much. But what I found was I could pose a question about something that I thought I wanted. Like, for example, I wanted to have a photograph on the front cover rather than a design, because that would match the photograph that I had on the first book. And but the expert advice that I got from Paul was that photographs don't necessarily look as professional and businesslike as a design. So, you know, I could have pushed back and said, no, I really want a photograph. I knew I could push back on that, but I felt like I was getting expert advice that I needed to listen to, because you guys are the experts. You've done this many more times than I have, and you know what sells. And so we could have those to and fro discussions about what I was thinking, but also what the the expert view was. And then I could still make up my mind one way or the other. I remember a few instances like that, where I thought I wanted one thing, but actually the advice was something different. So that was part of what I liked about this process. And then also I did feel like, because you were providing a service, how to describe it? You do provide a high level of service. So I felt that I was receiving really good value for money. So in that cover design, for example, I was totally wowed by what was put in front of me to choose from, or to react to start with. And then there were some other parts that, you know, I was like, oh wow, that's amazing. So something about the wow effect, because you were providing a service, and you really went. It felt to me as though you were going above and beyond to provide something special, and not something quick.
Yeah. I suppose that, you know, in a way, that is the difference. It's when you're investing, you know, we're there to support your vision. And of course, we're the publishers, and we do have a certain amount of industry knowledge. Of course we do. We've been in it for many, many years, and we kind of know what we're doing, and we can be there to guide you. But essentially, it's your book, and it's your story, and it's your business, and we want to support that. So so thank you for choosing to work with us. We've got 1 minute left to just quickly. I've just got one quick question. If you did have a tip, a top tip for anyone who's thinking of writing and publishing a book, from your experience now as a twice over author, what would that tip perhaps be for our viewers?
I think the top tip would be just write. Just write. I think you need to get in a pattern of writing, whether you're writing the actual book or writing ideas or blog posts or whatever it is. Find your voice. And you can only find your written voice if you write. And figure out, how do you want to come across in that written voice? Do you want to come across as formal? Do you want to come across as friendly? What's the tone that you want to have in that writing? And I think you can only find that tone by writing, and not worrying about whether you're ready to write the book yet, because some of what you write might end up in the book, but some of it won't. It'll simply be for the accessing of your voice.
Excellent tip. I love that tip. Clare, Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. It's been lovely to chat to you, and thank you for all your words of wisdom, and continued congratulations and continued success with the Transformational Coach.
Thank you.
Folks, available at all good bookstores and of course online. Thank you so much, Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you to Claire, and just a very quick thank you to all of you who've joined us today. We have a series of these author talks planned, and keep watching the our LinkedIn page so that you get announcements about them. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much.